and welcome to the annual Southern Africa Innovation Forum. Today's panel is discussing steps to take when entering new markets. My name is Alexandra Fraser. I am a SAIS project beneficiary. We were fortunate to be funded by SAIS to develop the African Angel Academy, and also director at Viridian, coming to you from South Africa. To kick off our panel, I'd like to introduce my two fellow panelists and ask them to give a short introduction to themselves before deep diving into their specific projects and the lessons that they have learned in commercializing their products. Kekolo, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Alex, and hi everyone. My name is Kekolo Mwakasungula from African Forestry. I'm a project manager there and a project coordinator for the integrated reforesting project in Tanzania. I'm happy to be here, and I hope we discuss more on the steps to take for the products to get to the market. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kekolo. Askwa, would you like to provide a brief introduction to yourself?
Yes. Hello, I'm Askwar Hilonga, a professor at the Nelson Mandela African Institution of Science and Technology. We had a project that's sponsored by SAIS, Southern African Innovation Support. That's a transfer of a low-cost water filter from Tanzania to Zambia. And the project has just ended in June 2021, and I have many success stories to share today of this project. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Askar. That's fantastic. Kekolo, back to you. Would you like to provide us with a brief overview of the project that you ran, as well as some of your achievements, so we can get into some of the lessons?
Thank you, Alex. So our project mainly was focusing on the commercial forestry. We realized that we have a lot of urban investors and diaspora who want to invest in the rural areas, but they don't really have the time, no sort of the means to visit the site regularly. So the service contractors were already in existence, but they were mainly informal. So our project sort of came in to formalize this and bring about really a change in that you can use technology to plant trees and monitor at the same time. So it was really possible through that. So we focused on 3 service providers that were already operating in the Southern Highlands. We gave them significant amount of training in terms of how to market themselves, how to have a business strategy and a costing strategy as well to go in hand with the new technology they were receiving. We gave them new GPS devices, which are a bit different from the conventional devices that are used normally. But these were specialized for forestry, and that really helped market the services much better. So in a nutshell, that's what we did. We also had a market validation workshop, which was something very important, because even though we had a lot of informal service providers, people still needed to see that there's a need for these formalized service providers to be recognized. So that was very important, and one of the key things that's happened in that validation workshop is that the urban investors themselves decided to form an association so that they can sort of take task of the service providers if they're providing ill service or if there's something wrong with their practice. So this was actually something that we did not expect to happen from the project, but it happened because of the product, and we're really happy that it did. One of the other issues that I can say, in the 6 months of implementing the project, we received the service providers to sort of dish out the product. So even before we still haven't yet launched the solution officially, but we are sure that once we launch it, we'll have more people that are going to need their services, and they're going to improve on this because of the project.
Thanks, Kekolo. Askwa, if you'd like to give us a brief overview of your project using nanofilters and the achievements to date.
Yes, thank you very much. So our project basically was to transfer the nano filter technology, the low-cost water filter from Tanzania to Zambia. And the approach we decided to use is to establish 20 water stations in Zambia. So just a snapshot for people who are not aware with this. This is a water purification system that I invented at the Nelson Mandela University. And it is using locally available materials. So it has been very successful in Tanzania, but so we applied for the transfer to Zambia. And so we decided to transfer through establishment of water kiosks. These are water stations where local entrepreneurs establish, run this business. They purify water and sell to their communities. And the success story we have is that we have established 20 water stations now, and this has created employment for Zambians, 25 young people, youth, and it is benefiting around 1,480 people, roughly around that, and many spillover side jobs that have been created through this innovation in Zambia. We have a fully fledged office now in Zambia, the city, a small town called Kalulushi, and we had a very good support from the government. I don't know if there is a lesson learned. Maybe I will talk about that later. But this is the success story we achieved in Zambia so far.
Oscar, thank you so much. Kikolo, if I could chat to you about the process that you followed to determine whether there was actually a need for the product in your target market. And you've spoken to us about how you have definitely confirmed that there is a market need, but talk to us about that actual process. So what steps did you take to get that market validation and to get all those people who are really interested in the products and service?
Thank you, Alex. One of the main issues that we've come to realize that consultation. In the first, when we were applying for this project through SICE, we had already realized that we have people who are investing in the rural areas and they're living in urban areas, but we didn't really know who they are. So we sort of took key informant interviews of the local governments whereby they have high tree growing ratio compared to other investments. So that was mainly in the southern highlands of Tanzania. So then once we did that, we got a list of the number of investors that are down in the southern highlands. From this list, and then we took it further, and then we said, okay, what do they need? What do these investors really need in their area of expertise? So we boiled it down to that it's service provision, and not just service provision from a normal laborer or anything else, but expert service provision that could be found on site and not really come from Dar es Salaam as a consultant to go all the way down to the Southern Highlands. So that was the process that we took, and from that we gathered that we needed professional service providers that were easily marketable, and at the same time they could be able to send the information back to the urban investors on time. And maybe something else that came out of the interviews was that most laborers, if they were not paid on time, they would maybe burn the investment. They would set fire to the forest. So then we got to realize that if we don't really have a monitoring basis, the whole system falls apart. So that's how we came to realize that as long as the service providers provide monitoring information that we've planted this much and you can verify using this online application, then it's easier to trust and people get paid on time. So those are the steps that we took, and I hope that covers most about how we got to that point. Thank you.
Thanks, Kikolo. Some really interesting lessons there, and also communication, as you say, it's that consultation, but being able to create trust and reputation between different stakeholders and platforms to verify information, which is absolutely critical. And I think as we progress in an increasingly digital world where you can't necessarily go and physically visit your forest investment or touch your tree in a metaphorical sense, these kind of platforms and way to really build trust become more and more important. Asqua, I don't know if you want to comment on market validation, because I mean, you took a product that was in one market and you transferred it to another market. And how did you go about validating that market need with the nano filter water project?
For me, I was privileged because I started with a partner in Zambia who is already well versed with his environment, with his life, with his challenges. And this was my fellow Africa Prize for Engineering contestant. So we are competing for the Africa Prize for Engineering Innovation. He came with a different product, Fortunately, I was the winner, but we maintained our relationship. So when I applied for this grant, Sais, I was advised that it is not enough for you to go with your Zambian partner. You need one more partner who can assist you, and this partner is from South Africa, was recommended. It's a SARIMA, Southern African Research and Innovation Management Organization. That was just an amazing advice. So immediately I contacted them, and they assisted us step by step on how to transfer technology from one country to another. It's a process, by the way. So we have learned a lot of lessons, but lesson number one is the strength of partnership. Partnership. You can't do everything alone in this world. There are people who are already experienced, so you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can just fast track the process by using the experienced partners. And in our case, a local partner, the Zambian organization, the company there is called Spot Agro Technologies, and the South African Innovation and Management Organization, SARIMA, who is already experienced in technology transfer. So, as I said, the market validation was easy for us. Of course, it was just like cross-checking. We went to Zambia physically, going through the SAIS support. We went there and we saw the real situation there. It was not so different from Tanzania. So it's like a copy and paste. But again, there are other things to do in between because the government is different, the procedures are different. And so I will talk more about these things if you allow me to talk about. But again, my main point is partnership. Getting the right partners. This is the secret of our success story.
Thanks, Asker. I think that talks a lot around partnership and those kind of historical relationships where you've already got that basis of trust. And what also came through for me in your answer is also having different people with different expertise that complement one another, having those complementary skill sets. I wanted to ask you, because I think as all of us, when you start out a project, you plan as much as you possibly can, and then sometimes things happen unexpectedly. And what I want to really unpack is, what was your biggest assumption and learning in this market validation? So what did you assume would be easy or go smoothly and was a challenge or ended up having to adapt to that unforeseen circumstance? Kikola, I saw you smiling, but Asker, let's start with you instead, and then we can go over to Kikola.
Okay. As for me, Corona, that was unexpected. But I don't blame so much because at the beginning, we started our project before the beginning of Corona. So at least we had an opportunity to cross the borders. It was very easy and what. But when it hit hard, when the borders were closed, we were really seriously challenged because our partner in Zambia is not that experienced with our product, and that brought some hassles. But nevertheless, we were able to go there with some difficulties, with some quarantine and the Corona checkup and what. So it went well, but there are very less surprises on my side. Maybe the big surprise is that in Zambia, there were also turnout of men, youth, because in Tanzania, we were mainly working with ladies. So I thought I will just work with ladies in Zambia also, but young people, young men showed up in Zambia, and here we go. So anyway, surprises here and there, but almost these countries are similar. The culture, many things were similar. Maybe if I was transferring to China or to South Korea, maybe it would have been a different story, but Tanzania and Zambia was not a very big shock.
Okay, but it sounds like you adapted. And I think there is also another lesson in there in terms of when you're scaling into a new market in a new country, there's so many unknowns. And so if you can pick an environment that's quite similar to your initial market, that also helps. Kakola, I saw
Yes.
you smiling. You clearly had some lessons and unexpected surprises.
So many, but I'll be brief in this session. The first one, I think Asko has already mentioned on it, the issue of COVID-19. Initially, we had planned that our partner, Ristutech from Finland, would travel and sort of give an introduction of what the devices, the new technology we're bringing in is all about, and we had to do all that online. We planned for 15 days, it took us a month, so the service providers could understand, and so it was a long process. The second issue is that we thought this is going to be a small project, and it turns out the government is now really inclined to follow up on it. So we have to prepare a curriculum, and they don't want the curriculum for sort of, we call it VETA here, vocational training. Now they want a national curriculum. So it turns out we can't even publish the curriculum until that is done. So it's a lot of, it was supposed to be for 6 months, but it turns out it's going to be a longer term issue even after SAIS is long done with us. Yeah. So those were the challenges that we faced, but most of them, I would say they were good challenges because you learn how to do things differently. And that was really important for us.
Kakola, I can so agree. Our project was also involved a lot of travel. When we designed it in October or in mid 2019, it was a very different world. We were going to work across 5 countries, and we were going to spend a lot of budget on travel and in-person workshops. And we pivoted our business to be completely digital. But with that challenge and in adapting to that challenge, I think we have built a much stronger product, which ultimately is more scalable. And I can see that because you've also had to kind of figure out exactly how long does the training take. It's not just 15 days, learning through those processes. I think we have had to figure out ways on how to make projects and products scalable and be able to expand to more markets and more people in a much shorter time. In our closing question, I wanted to talk to you about kind of next steps. Both of you have alluded to the scale and how your projects are now both bigger than you anticipated, but really to talk to you about what's the next stage of growth for your businesses and for your projects, and how do you think some of the initial SAIS training and lessons that you've learned are going to allow you to kind of achieve the scale and roll out national projects?
As for me, can I start maybe?
Yes, of course, Asko.
Yes. As for me, now we have gathered a lot of lessons because now we have a different set of country. We were in Tanzania. Now with the success story we have in Zambia, it is now we are in a very good platform to give a convincing argument or evidence that we are ready to scale up to other similar countries like in Kenya, Zambia, in Rwanda, Uganda, and other countries. And we are already negotiating now with some investors. We got some investors from Germany who are willing to help us scale up to other places. And we got a board which is led by a retiree of Johnson & Johnson company, who was the contributor of 10% cash contribution for our Zambian project. So he is now taking us to another scale. He has amassed a group of people around him who are our mentors and like an international board. And we are now preparing for a Test for Life campaign. This is a campaign to establish water stations from Alexandria in Egypt to Cape Town in South Africa. We are coming there. So anyway, it's a long story, but our next move now is to scale up the success stories we have now, not only from Tanzania, but also from Zambia. So we say thank you very much to SAIS for giving us an opportunity to get this experience. It's a live experience in the midst of challenge of pandemic. Since we were able to do it in the midst of pandemic, we hope that after pandemic, we will be even faster, or we will be even more efficient to go to other countries, to scale up to other countries. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, let me know when you're arriving in Cape Town and I'll be there to welcome you. That's
Thank
fantastic.
you very much.
Kikola.
By the way, just one more thing. This is we call Thirst for Life campaign, and there is a runner from Canada. Her name is Veronique. She has decided to run the whole length of Africa from Alexandria to Cape Town. So as she will be running, we will be establishing those water stations probably from 2022. So more is coming, please. Thirst for Life campaign.
We look forward to welcoming her through our cities. Kikola.
Yes, so one of the main outputs from the project is that we have data being collected from the devices. So the data tells us what is the planting rate of the service providers, how much acreage are they covering in a month, in a year, and that will be used also to project how can we impact the current sort of fight against climate change that we're having. So the idea is to move from commercial forestry, or not really move, but to add on an extra service, because we know there's a lot of finance out there for climate change related projects or businesses. So what we want to do is to move the service providers from planting sort of commercial species such as pine and eucalyptus, and they can move to more local species, which are important for protecting our environment. So that is where the model is moving to, and that is the skill that we want to do. So we want to really broaden what the service providers can do. If I say I want to conserve, let's say, 50 acres, the service provider should be able to now move and plant sort of species such as Alcacia, for example. And that will be a strong base for businesses everywhere, because I know the issue right now is climate change, and if the service providers can also align themselves with this, I think it's going to be a big project and a big business for a lot of people. Not to forget carbon credits as well in the future. So that's what we want to take it to.
Thank you, Kikola. And some wonderful impacts being made, especially aligned with the SDGs in both of your projects, whether it's from job creation and giving people access to clean drinking water, to climate change and reforestation. And I'm sure there's also a huge amount of economic development that both come with both of the projects as well. So in closing, I'd just like to thank my esteemed panelists. Thank you for your contributions today. And we look forward to your discussions and your questions from the audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and lovely to see so many of you watching today's panel. And I hope you are ready to pop your questions in the chat. We've got a few questions that have been also sent through to us on other channels. And so I'm going to kick off the Q&A and chat to my panelists a little bit more about the projects. So Kikola, I'm going to start with you. So really, what is the way forward with your solution? Oh, sorry. Okay, so apologies. We're going to start off with a different question. So also, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs looking to expand into new markets? Because a startup is not always the same as a project. And that's also something that I recognize. Kikola, I don't know if you would like to comment on that at all.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Hope everyone's doing well. I think it's the same thing that I mentioned from the start. It's consultations, because the moment you have a product and you want to introduce it to a new market, you really need to understand what problem you're trying to solve. It's the same with the project. It's the same with the business, because unless there's a sort of a problem that it's going to solve, I think you won't really penetrate the market. So I think consultations is the most important thing. It's the local government authorities that are sort of registering the businesses that are on there, your competition in this sense, or it could be the different stakeholders around, the different businesses that are already doing what you're trying to do. So I think the most important part is consultations. I think I can't stress this enough.
Thanks. Askar?
Well, I think we are already influenced by the video, by what we said before. It's true that partnership is the way to go. If you get a wrong partner, you have hit the rock, and you can't move. Particularly, we have learned now through this experience of COVID-19 that it is possible now to run many things even online, and what particularly on the other side, your partner is in the same, what can I say, frequency with you. You have a mutual understanding, mutual agreement, same purpose, same commitment. Things will move, and things move. So partnership again. Getting the right partner is a way to go.
Great. I never forget that speaking to an entrepreneur who was scaling their business, and they said something that was so true, is that every time you make a change to your business, whether it's expanding your team or expanding the project or expanding the market, you're not doubling the amount of complexity. It's an exponential increase. So, just replicating your operations from one country into the next is not just doubling the amount of work. It's tenfold, and in terms of managing complexity in systems and processes. So really, it's when you do expand into a new market, is that whatever operations you have in your existing market are almost running like a well-oiled machine and almost are looking after themselves before you add those additional layers of complexity.
Yes, indeed.
Cool. Then another question, and then maybe you can even answer this, is how have you used your pilot projects and your results to secure additional funding? Because I think that's also really important, and what part of it made it kind of really influence that, if you have been able to secure additional funding or interest?
So maybe I'll start off, Alex. Mm-hmm. So we have recently a lot of, I mentioned this in the chat as well, about climate change mitigation. So now everybody is talking about climate change, and it's, as Africa, we've become, so we've been awake, we have an awakening right now, as in everybody's interested in climate change, and now we understand that we have to do something. As youth, we have to do something. So we've had a lot of interest in people saying, okay, can we take this model and use it more against climate change mitigation? And I think that's where most funding is going to come from. I think we have not yet signed any agreement, but I'm sure that is where we're going.
Yeah. For us, I think it's also just, with the SICE project, they ask you to do a lot of measurement around impact and monitoring and evaluation. And if you have the discipline to do that properly, and you can have really strong evidence around kind of the impact that you've made and the results of a project, it's much easier then to convince new funders that you're able to deliver and you can achieve the same impact for them. Askar, I don't know if there's anything from your side.
Can you just paraphrase a little bit the question?
Yes. So how could you use your pilot project to secure additional funding?
Yes. I see the question here. I thought it is another question. Well, for me, this is it's a breakthrough, because there are many organizations that are interested to support a bigger part of Africa, not just one country. So they will want to see experiences in other settings, in other countries, whether these filters, for example, for me, is a water filter, whether it will work in a different setting. So this is already helping me now for other grant application, and also in sharing my story, our experiences in building other startups, what is that, inspiring other startups to learn from us. So there is a lot of win-win along this. And I was applying for my certification to WHO. What they are sensitive also is to see the geographical coverage, because that's World Health Organization. So where else is this filter used? So these are very important things. So for me, crossing the borders to another country has increased my status, if we can consider it some kind of a promotion. So if I was a doctor, now I'm a professor because I have crossed to another country. There is a lot of lessons that we have learned now beyond our Tanzanian borders, where we have same regulations, same culture, same what. But the moment we go to other countries, there is a set of different policies and so on, and there are a lot of challenges out there. But since we have made it now, thanks to SAIS for supporting us, now we are in a better position to really venture to another country. I'm ready for Uganda and Rwanda and Ethiopia now.
So I think this also leads us, I can see one of the questions in the chat is, what are some of the risks when entering into the new market? And I think we've highlighted quite a few of the risks. So just, in summary from what I've heard in our chat, I think the risks are not having the right partner or not finding partners. So that's kind of a critical risk, because through having partners, you actually have a much better understanding of the context on the ground. The regulatory risk, I think also if you haven't done business in a new country and it's not the same regulatory environment, you could actually get yourself into trouble. And I think if you don't have good partners and you don't understand the local context, it can cost you a lot of money, because you can go down the wrong road and not be successful and essentially waste project resources. Asko and Kokola, I don't know if you've got any other kind of risks that you want to add to that list, because those are just some of the things we've spoken about in this panel.
Maybe just to add on what you... Go ahead, Aska.
Go on, please.
Yeah. So maybe just to add on what you said in terms of context. I think as Africa, we are very much culturally diverse. And one of the issues that will happen is if you move from Tanzania and going down to Southern Africa, let's say to South Africa, a different context that you need to understand. But depending on what your product is, you need to understand the cultural background as well. While some places tree planting is a normal thing, other places tree planting is considered something you don't do. That's nature takes care of itself. So you also need to understand the cultural context and also maybe the business environment itself, that are totally different places. If you go to Namibia, for example, and you compare to Zambia, the business environment are two different things. So you really need to understand the context, as Alex said.
Yes, and the additional thing is on the cost estimation. Sometimes we startups, the entrepreneurs are so passionate, and you believe that the costs are just as it is in your country. Lo and behold, you go there, you get surprises. For example, a very big surprise I found in Zambia, and this is good news actually, is that they allow the water to be sold in sachets, water sachets. Like this, like in how they package in the milk. I don't know in your countries how you package milk. But in Tanzania, you can't package water in sachets. That was banned some years back. So I went to Zambia with that Tanzanian mentality that I will not be allowed to pack water like this. Lo and behold, that was the choice of Zambians. They say, why are you not packing it in sachet? So I wish when I was applying for this grant to SAIS, I wished I applied for that machine. Now that I have not applied, this has brought me another burden now, the extra cost to purchase the machine now for packaging water in the small sachets. And we are almost making it now. We have ordered the machine and things are happening there. But so what I'm saying here is that cost may be different. Some things may be higher than you have expected or lower than you have expected. So it is always good to put that contingency, and if you get an open-minded sponsor like SAIS 2, then you are ready to go. I wish I knew this thing earlier, but it's okay. It's a lesson learned. Now I know what to do. When I go to another country, I need to learn quickly. things that we are doing in Tanzania, how are different, and so on. So thank you.
Thanks, Askar. We have come to the end of our panel discussion, and we just want to say thank you on behalf of all of the projects to SPICE for supporting us. I think we have learned a lot, but it is amazing to see the impact of the SPICE grants across the continent on so many different sectors of the economy, from edtech to reforestation to online learning to health. So it really is fantastic. And secondly, I would also like to thank my panelists, Kekolo and Ashkra. It's been wonderful getting to know you, and look forward to one day visiting the projects in person. And then thank you very much to the Innovation Summit team for coordinating everything and running such a fantastic summit. So thank you all, and thank you to our viewers for listening to us. Have a really great day at the summit and enjoy the other session.
Enjoy, guys.
Thank you so much.